Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month, we've been talking about freedom to move forward. It's January. We're reaching the end of the month, and I have the most amazing guest ever. She's returning. My wife, Joann. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Right.
No one canceled. That's not why she's here. I'm joking. But anyway, thank you so much. We're gonna be wrapping up this month on freedom to move forward. Martin Luther King Day just passed us. We're starting to get into 2022. A lot of uncertainty. Why this freedom? Why is it important? But thank you again. Disclaimer for those who are listening. Obviously, I always start off with if you're in crisis situation, please seek appropriate help. In the U.S., it's 1-800-273-8255. It's a national suicide prevention lifeline. I encourage all those who listen around the world to find what is available in your area. As we talk about Martin Luther King, we start off with the quote, Joann, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first steps. What comes to mind when you hear this quote?
Well, I just think of all the times when I want to have everything planned. I want to
Mhm.
have everything prepared, but it doesn't work that way. Or perhaps I had something planned, but things change, or life just throws a curveball halfway through it, or even in the beginning, and then the plans I had, well, it don't mean anything anymore. So it's just taking things as they come, one step at a time.
Uh, I find that sometimes when it is very stressful, that one step at a time is all we can do. Sometimes looking at the whole staircase, really, even if it is true, there's no 100% certainty in a lot of things. So sometimes we can get very discouraged in
And
that. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Mhm.
just also, in a way, not seeing the entire staircase is actually a mercy,
Yeah.
because we might be too overwhelmed if we
Mhm.
see, like, where we have to go, how far it goes. Just seeing that one step is enough.
And I think also logically, if we knew the whole staircase of our life, there wouldn't be need for much hope. Revive Ministry, you kind of just wait. But I just feel that hope, uncertainty has breeds life to hope because you can't have one without the other. In the way that if there was certainty, there will be no need for hope because we would know the whole staircase. In that regards, the title of this month is Freedom to Move Forward. I'd like to ask you, what stands out in this title when you hear Freedom to Move Forward?
Well, to me, I think that not only for myself, but for a lot of people, that we don't think of freedom when we're thinking about moving forward. That maybe some of us, myself included, would think that moving forward, we're trying to move towards freedom, or freedom is something we could get later. But actually, this points out that we can have freedom now
Yeah.
as we're moving forward.
Yeah, it promotes this being present. If every best day is just that out of reach, I feel our attitudes and our mindset can be that freedom is something to strive for, nothing that we can obtain today. I find that I like what you said about being present. That freedom is something that we presently can have. Um,
And also that sometimes when we're confined, or, yeah, like let's just say confined in the prison of our minds,
Mm.
we are our own prison guards, and we can be very brutal prison guards to ourselves.
It's interesting you say that. A lot of times, those prison guards are per se as an illustration. There's there's a lot of fear that can be consuming and preventing us to move forward. Sometimes we kind of talk ourselves out of a lot of things because we kind of say, well, this may happen, that may happen. Guess I'll do nothing. And in moving forward, I remember a lot of athletes say you miss 100% of your shots, the 100% of the shots you don't take. So I it's easier for me to say it because everyone's situation's uniquely different. But I do like that. I have another quote for you, Joann. Just because we're wrapping up this month, and I want to kind of dive a little deeper. This one quote really stood out to me. It's from Yasmin Mogahed. Um, you'll find out later that I really can't pronounce anything correctly, but she says, resilience is very different than being numb. Resilience means you experience, you feel, you fail, you hurt, you fall, but you keep going. What comes to mind?
Well, what I see here is that resilience means that you you allow yourself to feel,
Yeah.
and maybe even force yourself to feel that it's a hard road. You're going to get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but you do it anyway. Numb, I feel is uh I guess the opposite, not allowing yourself to feel, or being being passive, or having a sort of giving up, well, maybe not giving up attitude, but expecting disappointment, because then you won't be disappointed.
MJ from Spider-Man, the most
Yes.
recent. Well, I do. This topic, this quote, I would say it's a struggle for me for a while. Especially, I used to think that being numb and being stoic or not showing, in certain contexts, for the short term, it's appropriate. I could, depending on the context, but long term it's not sustainable. When I think about numbing, it's not strength. I'm avoiding my emotions. Some of the most painful, most courageous thing is for us to face our emotions. So resiliency doesn't even play a part when you're just numbing. I used to say
Mm.
desensitize the sensitivities. Really, I used to say that plenty of times in my younger years, and I thought I was stronger, but it actually stunted my ability to be resilient emotionally. And as I moved forward and I picked up some reckless habits, but here I am. So what I would say from my experience, and I think you're saying the same thing, is that being numb does not mean that we're resilient. Being numb is avoiding the issue altogether. It's
Mm.
it's it's forgetting. It's forgetting that these things impact you. And the danger of that is that sometimes you lose yourself in the numbing. Sometimes you feel that that is who you are, but you're still that person who cares about these things very
Mhm.
much. Sometimes when we go the derivative of our emotions, I use derivative, we begin to see that some of our deepest seated hurt is from the most simplest emotions. That I feel sad because I feel neglected. I feel I feel I feel sad or I feel shame because I don't feel like I'm good enough. I feel like not making my family proud enough. I want to be better, but some of these emotions get overwhelming, and a lot of us sometimes, me included, we tend to kind of shell up, and then we're like, You know what? I am numb, so I'm strong. But the thing is, in grief and in struggles, it's not that this process happens all at once. I'm sure the person who wrote this, Yasmin, would also say that you feel and you fail, and most she says you fail too, you hurt. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
process. So like it's not like, oh, I understand my emotions, I'm all to no, it takes time. And I think um moving forward takes time. So
Mm-hmm.
Joanne, what have you seen and experienced that has worked for you and those close to you when trying to move forward?
Well, there are those instances where you move forward because you have to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not, do I keep going, or do I wallow in self-pity, or do I give in to despair? It's, do I move forward or do I move forward?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm thinking of a few instances where I had that, where I had to go through that, and thinking the like what worked for me was knowing that there's a need
Mm-hmm.
and I needed to meet that need.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Uh, when I look at this question, what have you seen and experienced that worked for you and that was close to you when trying to move forward? I think it is it's something that unique, just how we look at the word freedom. It's just whenever we think about these big words, we sometimes we cannot we cannot separate it from ourselves and the context around us. Um, so moving forward could be just, I'm not going to take another drink today, and that's my goal. Moving forward could be, I'm going to go to detox. Someone who's like, that's backwards. The person is addressing that he or she wants to be better. I
Mhm.
think moving forward is something, if you're allowed to set the boundaries, it's not dictated by anyone else. I feel that this topic of moving forward is very, very personal to the individual itself. So,
Mm.
and I think it's also, it allows us the room to be accountable and not be afraid to be accountable because you want to be better. And I feel that you know it's this process, because if you kind of feel that you're numb, and that's a fear I have of this quote. Resilience means experience. It doesn't mean that you become numb. The problem is when you get numb, you forget why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you care about what you're doing? And then unfortunately it becomes moment by moment. And I feel that the damage that you feel you're going to be preventing from that numbing actually, from my own personal experience, does more damage in the long run. We're going to go into a word that I've been saying wrong this whole time. I apologize for my those listening. I've been using this word because I thought it was a good word, and it is a good word, but my wife is going to say it correctly for all of us to hear.
Okay, well, I mean, I
Yeah,
could be wrong too, but at least what I heard was Hirreith. Hirreith.
Jerez. Oh my goodness. So,
Spanish R. Hirreith.
anyway, I'm, uh, I'll do it again just because I've been wrong this whole time. Jerez. Jerez. Doing it. Okay. The Welsh noun word, and it's a homesickness for somewhere you cannot return to. The nostalgia and the grief for the lost places of your past, places that never were. What comes to mind? I know it feels kind of out of context of what we're talking about, but what comes to mind just looking at this word? What do you think of?
Hmm. Actually, this makes me think of for example, you're going through something and you're just moving forward as best as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need something to hope for, something to look forward to, and you come up with a plan, a dream,
Mm-hmm.
um, some sort of reward for getting through this phase,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully you make it through to the other side, and maybe what you were hoping to do, or that positive idea that helped you move forward, maybe it's not there, but you can remember it with a bit of nostalgia, because even though it didn't happen or
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as you expected, you still have that memory.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way. That's a very positive way to look at it, because sometimes it could be the catalyst to move forward. It's like, if you're really in dire straits and you're with a group of people, your friends, you kind of say, um, you kind of nostalgia, you kind of use this, the context of this word. Maybe you're going home. Yeah, home is okay, and I think if anyone is honest, sometimes if you're down and out and you're returning home, something happened. You get nostalgia of like things being a lot more brighter, a lot more nicer, a lot more familiar. And it could be a little bit skewed, but in a positive bent to look forward to something. That's wonderful insight. I didn't think about it that way. For me, I think about just in context of Yasmin's quote. Sometimes as a child, things look a lot bigger when you're little. You go to your old your own house, you're like, that's small.
That's it.
You go to your high school, it used to be so big, at least I felt bigger. It's small. But I would say it gets problematic when um, you have reoccurring, maybe you haven't established many protective factors, or something that's positive that can keep you away from something that may, in the context of substance abuse, something that may make you relapse. So you may say, oh, so and so, I miss this company, or I miss doing this or that, and it becomes, you blow it up to something very big. We could, like I said in the beginning, we could convince ourselves to do about anything or nothing. We could say, you know what, I am so consumed with fear, I'm just gonna say it's better for me to not go outside because all these fear, and we reinforce it. On the other hand, we could do the opposite. Say, oh, it's not that bad. I remember it being really nice, but honestly, it's that nostalgia that never was. And with that context, we're gonna move to the statement that a lot of people use lately. Well, not lately, but last few years, I've noticed. I've used it myself for a few events. It's okay to not be okay. Why is this important moving forward to you?
Well, it's important because it's a reminder that I'm not gonna be my best all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I I'm not gonna be on my top A game all the time. That's it's not possible, it's not human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because if we were, then how do you know that this is not a robot? It's not an android or whatever any of those terms are.
Yeah.
And even then, our phones need to be recharged.
Mm-hmm.
Our computers need to be charged. So even machines need to be charged. Why not more people?
You know, I remember you're talking about certain words that we're gonna add, that we're gonna talk about after this, but I want to switch the order just by what you said. So we're gonna go with wabi sabi. Finding beauty in the imperfection and acceptance of the cycle of life and death.
Wabi sabi.
What would you like? For me, I kind of think it's self-explanatory. You're kind of saying it in your own way. You know, a lot of times our imperfections, you know, our imprints, you know, our human traits. Because if everything, like you said, if everything was perfect, it becomes. There was this study that people are less open, less willing to be open if someone appears to be perfect or appears to be. They're less willing to be open or share in those contexts. So with this word, you showed me this word. What comes to mind besides what you already said?
Well, that we can find beauty or even just good things anywhere, including the imperfections. Like shoo, I don't know. Okay, let's say you have a broken couch. But it helps you be considerate. It helps you to learn to be careful. And it's something that you can transfer to other things until you get a new couch or what have you.
We don't have a broken couch, by the way. No, but at least for me, when I read this, I think about the little boy who stole the cookie and then says, "I did it." He stole the cookie, which wasn't nice, but he admitted it at such a young age. There's something, even though the imperfection of not following the parents' rules as this context, there's something beautiful about him opening up. Yeah. So I think it's not about getting the answer right the first time. A lot of times the most beautiful things are the imperfect things. And then this word I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but
Streusvogelpolitik.
Okay. And Ostrich politics, acting like you don't notice when something bad happens and continue on regardless as you normally would. It's another level and I guess a less poignant way of numbing. Sometimes we just like to be selective of our hearing, or what we do, or let's say we know that something's coming up, and that we have the ability to make steps to, decrease the impact. We may have ostrich politics in our head and say, nah, it's not going to happen. And we're lying to ourselves and it's going to happen. But yeah, I when it comes to these two, I find that it's very familiar and it's very relatable, because I feel I can admit I've done this many times. I could tell to myself I act like I didn't notice, like, oh, that happened. You kind of want to kind of minimize. You don't want to have that effect today. But I remember when we're talking about emotional intelligence, we didn't talk about today specifically, but when we talked about coping, a lot of us like coping sounds like such a general, common word, but there's two major ways to cope. If I broke my arm, Joanne, I'm not gonna sit here like I would cope if I was going through. I don't know. If my dog passed away. If my dog passed away, I'm not gonna treat my coping skill to be the same as if I broke my arm, because there's a practical solution to handling my broken arm. I go to a doctor. But sometimes, as silly as that sounds, that people can have them mixed. Okay, they'll do the response you would have for losing your dog when you could just simply go to the doctor. When you simply could pay on some of the debt you were on, you treat it like it's emotional coping skills, which sometimes is reflective and all this stuff, which is good. But in the context of something like this, it can be ostrich politics. um, Joann, what drives you to? I know a lot. You teach people online. Let's give that context. I like so that people understand why I'm asking this question. Joann, what drives you towards helping people feel confident in connecting with a foreign tongue?
Well, growing up, I've had I've had struggles, challenges with communicating,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up speaking Spanish and English, and I had problems communicating in both.
Okay.
And and so there's that, and also I've always been fascinated by other languages, other cultures, other countries and their histories. I've like those who know me well know I am a language geography nerd. Like I love that. And having been blessed with the opportunity to study several languages, I don't speak hardly any of them, but at least I have an idea of how they work. Um, I feel that there is a huge need for learning English, be it for education, work opportunities, moving to another country, like all these things, but they all basically have the end goal of having a better life.
Mm.
And so English just happens to be the vehicle to get to said goal. And I am happy to help people learn and speak English, especially speak, because listening, writing, reading, and speaking is the hardest of the 4 language goals. Because writing, you can write something down, you can let it sit and correct it, you have time with it. But speaking, once you say it, it's done. And it's daunting. And since I've been there, I feel that I can really feel for them and help them gain the confidence to speak, that they're not going to die. We're not going to kill them. Like, just need to speak. And it's not as bad as it seems.
Right now we're communicating, connecting, communicating. We're using language. We're talking. A lot of my guests communicate. Why is communication the key, so important, in your own opinion, when it comes to moving forward? Um, why is the idea of communicating also so important to healing or feeling better, moving? Why is communicating in this context? Because we're talking about freedom to move forward, and you may be kind of like, well, what is he talking about? Communicating in an essence, like you're talking about, you're helping people connect in their foreign tongue, which is frightening. I know, because both my parents tried to speak to me and I stopped talking. but what but in that context, why do you think communicating, being able to communicate effectively, which is so important in those aspects when it comes to moving forward, when it comes to confidence, wellness, growing, recovering, and healing? Why? Why do you think, personally?
There's so many things going on in our minds, so many things we want to say, so many ideas we want to share. And if we keep it all in, it's gonna form a sort of cancer that will just eat us up. So we need to let them out, and we want to let them out. We want to share them with others. And so since we haven't figured out how to communicate telepathically, then language is the next best thing, besides body language. But yeah, words can say more than what our faces and fingers can.
Yeah, and life is best lived shared, and it's good when we're able to communicate, because one of the biggest, I would say, complaints, but one of the hardest things when you're in recovery or when you're struggling with something externally, internally, is being heard. Coming back to it's okay to not be okay. Why is this important? We've said a lot already, but why is this important in moving forward with your students and for you as a teacher?
Well, it's important because I guess I could change this sentence up for my students and saying it's perfectly fine to not be perfect. You will not be perfect. We native speakers are not perfect. Like, many students come to me saying that their goal is to reach fluency. The thing is that fluency and accuracy are two different things. If you want fluency, what you're asking for is the ability to speak freely, just like it's second nature, like it's your mother tongue. Just express your ideas freely. Will there be mistakes? Probably.
Yeah.
I know I make lots of grammatical mistakes when I speak, but no one is checking your grammar.
Yeah.
Really. What's the main point of communication? Understanding and being understood.
Yeah.
So there's that, and sometimes I've had the occasional student asking for help with their accent, that they want to develop a neutral American accent. And that's fine. But I'd say there's nothing wrong with keeping your accent. Like, what is an accent? Like a foreign accent? It's a sign of courage. That You know it sounds a little strange. It sounds a little different, but you speak it anyway.
Yeah. We learn more from our mistakes than we do from our, I guess, correct answer or correct method of doing it. But I like the fluidity when it comes to learning, embracing learning per se. There's a lot of mistakes down that road. And being okay to not be okay will only propel you forward even faster. When you're too concerned about not being okay, it stunts your movement forward. We may be consumed with fear. We may lie to ourselves. One thing that communication is very important. If we're not able to communicate effectively, we may feel not heard. And I've met and I've been around and I've felt not heard. And then when we're not heard, we become bitter. And when we become bitter, it may become overwhelming. And then this quote from Yasmin, we may be thinking to ourselves that because we say nothing, because we act like we don't care, we're stronger, but it's a lie. Because we're starting to forget that it is important. This portion of our lives or whatever we're going through is hard, but it is still important. I just want to ask you any final thoughts you would like to share with those listening right now as we wrap up this month on finding freedom to move forward.
Well, with moving forward, with language learning, with working towards goals, I think something that we all need to remember, myself included, or I guess I should say especially myself, is that we need to be patient and gracious with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's great to have ambitions and to have goals and to try to reach for something that's just beyond our reach, I guess.
Mm.
But Rome was not built in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Empires are not built in a day, although they can fall in a second.
Yeah.
The building is the hardest part, the climb, and we need to cut ourselves some slack. And I'd say that we are the hardest ones to be that we are patient to.
Yeah. I would say this to also accountability is not a bad word when it's a safe place. Thank you, Joann, for sharing your insight with us today. Remember to stay updated with Revive Ministries through the various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is the hub where you can find where everything is at. This is goodbye from Revive Ministry Podcast, leaving with his last quote. Maya Angelou, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by